Josh Giddey shows a lot of the promise that Bulls front office hopes he's going to bring to the Chicago Bulls next season in a game against USA. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, Arturas Karnisovas says that he expects Zach LaVine to be fully healthy and ready to go by training camp. We're going to talk about what that could mean. And then lastly, is Billy Donovan going to stick around for this next phase of the Chicago Bulls long term? Or has this rebuild also kind of jump-started the timeline on Billy Donovan and his run as coach of the head coach of the Chicago Bulls? We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off with Josh Giddey and his performance over the Olympics in an elimination game against Team USA. He was 7 of 17 from the field, but he did have 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists in 27 minutes. When you look at the way that Josh Giddey played in this game, a lot of the things are what the Bulls are going to hope is going to translate for the Chicago Bulls next season, right? When you look at it, using his size and his ability to attack defense, a lot of Bulls fans, and this is one thing that I love Bulls Nation, but I also hate about it at the same time, and I'm sure every fan base has this, but a lot of Bulls fans go more off narrative and stat sheets than actually watching the game. And for anybody who really thought that Josh Giddey doesn't have an offensive bag, I need them to wake up. Is he a shooter? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But Josh Giddey absolutely has a bag here. And the question is that how effective can he be in that without that shooting and be that for the Chicago Bulls next season? And that is a fair question to ask. But to act like Josh Giddey doesn't have any type of ability, that's just wrong. When you look at it, yeah, he had the ugly layup. He had the pull-up three-point shot that was bad. But his ability to get to the defense, right, get into the teeth of the defense, especially against a Team USA team, that was huge to watch in that, right? He took Anthony Davis off the dribble a bunch of times and then was able to finish at the rim. Nobody is going to tell you that Josh Giddey has this 3-level scoring. And I think nowadays in the NBA especially, we prioritize and we herald 3-level scoring, rightfully so, because it is a special ability to have, but you can still be effective without that 3-level scoring. And Josh Giddey has shown that. When you look at the amount of shots that he created for bigs as well with his dribble penetration, when you have players that move without the ball, like a Matas Bucilis, like even a Zach LaVine could do in coming off screens, it could be something that we put Josh Giddey in the best situation. And I've said it before, the Bulls are going to want Josh Giddey to get back to the closest thing that he was to that 17, 8, and 7 player. And there's no reason to think that he can't do that on the Chicago Bulls team. The question is, not can he put up the numbers, is how effective can he be while putting up those numbers, right? And that's a question that's a fair one to ask when it comes down to Josh Giddey. Is he going to be a player that can put up stats and it not really affect winning, right? And look good, but not really have the kind of impact of really making the teammates around him better? That's what the Bulls are hoping for in this. They are hoping that Josh Giddey does help Kobe White be a better offensive player. That with Josh Giddey's ball movement and things like that, that he does help Patrick Williams be a little bit more aggressive and get more opportunities with the ball. Because those are the things that Josh Giddey does extremely well. Is playmake, move the ball around. He's a really good operator of the offense. And one thing that I've always said, as much as I have my own issues with Billy Donovan's coaching, Billy Donovan's system always looks the best when he has a point guard that's playing at a high level. And so Giddey can do it, right? He has the capability of doing it. The question is, will he do it at the right moments? And, a lot of Bulls fans as well, of course, questioning because of how the playoffs operated on that team and things like that. And that's fair. Listen, I get it. But we're not even a team that can get to that point of the playoffs. I wish that we were a team to get to the point of the playoffs where we're still competing and having to sit a player. We're not that. Josh Giddey is going to help a lot of what the Chicago Bulls are trying to do with this new look offense. Getting Josh Giddey, who can operate in the fast break and in the half court for players like Patrick Williams, for players like Kobe, for players like Matas Bucilis, right? Those are things that I really look at and I think are going to play an important part of the game. Julian Phillips, who can run. Ayo Dosunmu, who can run. Jalen Smith, right? They can help that tremendously. And so I tell you what, the floaters that he also showed in this game, the ability to get around bigs and having a bigger player switched on top of him, it's really good aspect, and he can do those things. And so I like to see what he did. When you heard that things like AK say, getting a player that has Josh Giddey in the draft, that has the skill set that Josh Giddey's already shown in the draft is why they prioritize Giddey over draft picks. You're seeing all of that come to fruition. Now, he has to do it at the NBA level, and the Bulls are going to be in a position where they have to rely on Josh Giddey. I know, and some people are talking about Lonzo Ball coming back and all this. Josh Giddey is going to be the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. The question is that this experiment that AK, that Eversley, that Billy Donovan seemed to sign up for, is it going to work out with you're getting the best out of not only Giddey, but the other players around Giddey to maximize on that potential? And the Bulls are going to have to make that or hope that they get that answer to that this season, with Josh Giddey being an expiring contract at the end of the year and his rookie deal expiring. They're going to have to extend Josh Giddey. The question is how much? How much does he earn? And then how many years do the Bulls feel comfortable giving Josh Giddey on that based off how much he shows and how well he fits in with the other players on this roster? And so that's what we're looking for from Josh Giddey. Love to see his performance in that summer league game. It was a solid performance from Josh Giddey. It's in no ways I'm going to make it seem like it was the best. No, because there were still some things, signs for concern. Didn't shoot the ball overly effectively. That weird pull up that he did, that was just ugly. And he has no 3-point bag at all. But Josh Giddey does have a bag offensively, and he is craftier than even I gave him credit for, and his ability to finish around the rim. The question is he going to be able to do that, and will the Bulls have enough shooting around him to where defenses have to respect his ability to get to the lane, or like we've seen with the Bulls the last few years, will defenses be able to pack it in against the Chicago Bulls, and then at that point, because of our lack of 3-point shot creation, do we end up having another stagnant offense? But that's something to look out for. That's something to watch. I like what I saw in Josh Giddey last night. We won't get to see more of him until preseason, right, when it comes down to that. But Josh Giddey showed a lot of his strengths, while also, though, and I have to say this, solidifying a lot of the concerns around Josh Giddey as well with the 3-point shooting, with the effectiveness from the field, those type of things. Yeah, he solidified it and helped strengthen those concerns also. But when you look at Josh Giddey, you can figure out how Josh Giddey can be productive. The people that try to talk about Josh Giddey like he's horrible or this player that just can't play the game at an NBA level, that's narrative. That's not facts. And he can play the game at the NBA level, and he can be effective in what he does well. But the question is, at 21 years old, how much does he increase his game over the next few years? How much does he add to his game, add to his bag? How much can he become a respectable 3-point shooter, right? Don't have to be at all a knockdown 3-point shooter. 3-point shooting doesn't even have to be a big part of your game, but can you get to the point of at least being able to knock down the open ones? But I think Josh Giddey, especially for the Bulls fans that looked at that trade and immediately went to, the Thunder couldn't play him in the playoffs, he's trash. I think he's going to prove that part of the narrative wrong. The question is how much can he continue to improve as a player, and we'll see what comes along with that. Let's get into the next topic that we have for today, and that is Zach LaVine. AK had this to say. We expect Zach being fully healthy, and he is healthy. I think he can help this group next year. He's been professional. Again, he's healthy. We expect him to be with us at the start of training camp and to help this team compete. That's what they said about Zach LaVine, and we have no doubts about it. That's what Arturas Karnisovas should say about Zach LaVine, because at the end of the day, nobody's disputing the fact that AK still wants to move Zach LaVine. The Bulls still ideally want to move Zach LaVine and probably would love to do so before the season, but it seems like both parties have come to the realization that the before the season part of that's just not going to come. Zach LaVine is going to be here to start the season for the Chicago Bulls, and this statement is one that I take to mean, yes, he's going to be here for quite a while. The question is how much does Zach LaVine fit in with what the Bulls are doing? And I think he can fit in well. He's going to be playing now probably at the 3, and that's going to be something interesting to watch, right? Especially with Kim and Kobe on that wing position, and we'll see what comes along with that. But ultimately, Zach LaVine being here with the Chicago Bulls is not a perfect scenario. And there is some, and this comes from Darnell Mayberry and Joe Cowley, who both said the same thing, is that there's some concern on if this is headed for disaster as far as the personality aspect of it. Joe Cowley going so far as to say that DeMar DeRozan served as a buffer between LaVine and Coach Billy Donovan, and then now with him not being on this team and DeMar DeRozan being now with the Kings, how much is that going to be? Mark Eversley talking about DeMar DeRozan's leadership. So there is some concern from the Bulls on, could this thing end up going left, not because of necessarily Zach LaVine's skill set or anything, but because of him in the relationship between Billy Donovan. So, the Bulls have put themselves in this situation is really what it comes down to. The Bulls' inability to strike when players have their most value has led to this in a degree. Now, in no way is the front office at fault because a coach and a player can't get along, depending on how you look at that, because the front office is the ones who put these parts together. But Zach LaVine, he's going to be motivated. I had a conversation actually in the Discord, the Chicago Bulls Discord, and somebody said that LaVine is going to be on a mission to put up the most numbers possible to prove a point. And I'll say this, I'm not saying that that's not outside the realm of possibility, but I do think that would be worse for not only the team probably, but also Zach LaVine. The questions around Zach aren't can he score. The league knows that Zach LaVine can put up points. The questions around Zach LaVine outside of the contract are, how much does he impact winning, right, which is a huge one. And then, is he a player that can fit in? No team that is going to be trading for Zach is going to be looking at him as the number one option. So thus, Zach LaVine showing that he can fit in, even if he is still the best scorer on this team, which I know some people are going to dispute, right? He still has, or it benefits him the most to show that he can fit in. A Zach LaVine that comes into the season averaging 25, 5, and 5 would do much more for the trade value and the viewer of LaVine around the league than a Zach LaVine that comes in averaging 32 points per game and then not many assists, not many rebounds. Zach LaVine, and again, I don't know this. This is the speculative part, not the actual reporting part, but I don't know what Zach LaVine's motivations are coming into next season. But a Zach LaVine that is locked in with making sure that he is playing winning basketball, that is doing the things in the team concept, yeah, that's the best part of it. That's going to be the part that ends up in the best situation for both Bulls and for Zach LaVine. And he has to be willing to buy into that. Am I saying that he's not? I don't know. I haven't talked to the man. I don't know him. I won't say that he is. But, despite, the issues that some people like my boy Winton have with Billy Donovan, it still comes down to this. Zach LaVine, the market has shown that they don't believe in Zach LaVine right now. And for Zach LaVine to change that narrative, to do his part in changing that narrative, he will have to come into this season and he would have to play at an efficient level, at a high level, and he would have to contribute to this team winning. And a Zach LaVine that buys in and allows Kobe White to be who Kobe White blossomed into last season, that allows a Josh Giddey to come in and operate it as a point guard, and he shows that he's willing to fit into what his role and what he's asked to do for this team, that's going to be a Zach LaVine that then becomes more desirable by other teams, even with that contract. It still is a possibility, but LaVine is going to have to be locked in. And the relationship between LaVine and Billy Donovan, people once said that it's professional, that they both know how to be amicable, and that's something that they need to keep, that they have to keep going. That's both Billy Donovan and Zach LaVine, right? And that's if Billy Donovan has any type of discourse or anything like that. So, hearing that DeMar DeRozan was looked at as an extension of Billy Donovan and that he helped be that buffer between Zach LaVine and Billy Donovan when their relationship went left, it does raise some concerns on, okay, now without that, how does that, but at the same time, I'll say this, these are grown-ass fucking men. And I'm sorry for my French, for people who don't like cursing on their sports podcast. I've been trying to keep it, but at the end of the day, I just got to be real. These are grown fucking men. If you can't put your feelings aside enough, both of them, I'm not taking one side and this and the other. If you can't put your feelings aside to be professional for the best of this basketball team, then the battle's already lost when it comes down to that. And we'll see what the future holds for that with Billy Donovan and Zach LaVine as well. You guys can let me know what you guys think on that down below. But let's go to the last topic on today's episode, and that is about the coach that we just talked about, Billy Donovan. There have been a lot of questions on Billy Donovan and this next phase of the Chicago Bulls and how much is Billy Donovan playing a part into that. And, part of the discourse that Bulls fans have with Billy Donovan is that when you look at coaches that have been fired over the last few years, Frank Vogel, Monty Williams, Adrian Griffin, all these coaches having better records than Billy Donovan. Matter of fact, the Pistons firing Monty Williams with what he had the first year of a huge contract that made him at the time the highest paid coach in the NBA, that shows that a front office is not settling for mediocrity, right? When you look at Darvin Ham, who went to the playoffs 2 times on that dysfunctional Lakers team, right? And so there's a lot to be said about Billy Donovan and what is he bringing to the Bulls in 2024. When you look at the fact of adding into that, Billy Donovan did not want to do a rebuild with the OKC Thunder. He now finds himself on this Bulls team that is clearly in the midst of a rebuild, right? I don't think too many people are going to dispute that. But I do think the presence of Billy Donovan still being here goes to the point that the Bulls aren't tanking. They're rebuilding, but not necessarily tanking. And so because of that, that is what plays a part into what does the future hold for Billy Donovan. And I know I asked the question before on an episode a few weeks ago, is Billy Donovan the right coach to go to this next phase for the Chicago Bulls? And a lot of Bulls fans said no. Some said yes, and that's expected. There is a very mixed crowd when it comes down to the thoughts and feelings on Billy Donovan's coaching here with the Chicago Bulls. The fact of the matter is, though, Billy Donovan has not been successful as the coach of the Chicago Bulls. Now, there are reasons for that. I don't want to act like there's not, right? Injuries, things like that. But when your record gets worse every single season, you're not having a success, right? And player development hasn't necessarily been there. Ayo, Kobe, of course, have developed. You can look at that. Patrick Williams has basically pretty much been the same player with a little refinement, of course, better in the three-point game and things like that. Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry haven't really played a whole hell of a lot. Julian more because of injury, Dalen because of just the raw nature of him. And so when you look at the things that you judge coaching by, wins. We've gotten worse every single year, basically, that Billy Donovan's been here, except from the first season to the second season. And that's because we took over a team with Wendell Carter and all those guys. And then the second season of you coaching us, we got Lonzo Ball, DeMar. We had gotten Vooch at that trade deadline. So those are things that play a part into that, right? Billy Donovan leaves at times a lot to be desired with his rotations, with him understanding how to put players in the right position, the places that they are the most, that they have the biggest strengths at. So when you look at that, 31 wins the first year of Billy Donovan being here. That was in the 72-game season. So there was 10 more games there. Could have went a different way, right? 46 wins his second year. That's the year that we talked about. Then 40 wins and 39 wins. And the Bulls have gotten worse, going from second in the Central Division to third to fourth over the last 3 years. Billy Donovan being here for the Chicago Bulls does lead a lot of people to ask, how committed are the Bulls either to winning or even to really rebuilding and developing these young players? That is a fair question to ask with Billy Donovan as your head coach, because those are some of the biggest questions that you have around Billy Donovan. So because of that, it's like, hey, what are we getting here with Billy Donovan? That I don't know. I can't say. At the end of the day, I think this. While the Bulls are looking to go to a new phase of the roster, while Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic are still technically on the roster, I can understand Billy Donovan still being here. If the Bulls were to ever embrace an actual tank that was going to happen over several seasons or whatever, that's where I think that it gets to a different area and a different question around Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan is a well enough coach to the point where he can teach players fundamentals. He can put a system in place. When you look at times with the OKC Thunder team, when they thought the team was going to be trash, and he still did coach that team, developed the team with a wash at that time people thought Chris Paul, right, to still make that team a playoff team. That there is, like, again, I fight against the part that Billy Donovan being a good head, he's a good coach, but he's not a great head coach. And just because you're generally a good coach doesn't necessarily mean that you're good for every situation or on the team that you're in. And that's where the Bulls have to ask their question on, in this next phase, how much of this. I'll say this. I do think that starting this rebuild has also started the clock in a lot of ways for Billy Donovan, in my opinion, depending on how quick can the Bulls turn this thing around. Let's say that Ayo, Kobe, Patrick Williams, Julian Phillips, Montas Bucilas, all over the next 2 years, because that's how long Billy Donovan has left on his contract. Let's say that they hit exponential growth. At that point, yes, I do think that Billy Donovan probably could stay on longer if those players have grown so much in these next 2 years that were looked at and said, we're still back to being a couple of pieces away from being a couple of pieces away. If the Bulls get lucky and get a great player, I'm not going to say Cooper Flagg, but a great player in next year's draft that also shows some signs of being a star level player, maybe then you keep Billy Donovan. But I'm going to say this, is that I do think the clock has started for Billy Donovan. And that may also be by Billy Donovan's own desire as well. Make no mistake about it. Billy Donovan, I do believe, does not want to be on a tanking team. I think that if you can convince him that the rebuild is going to be a quicker turnaround, he'll probably want to stay on that again, being one of a Reinsdorf guy and things like that. I do think that Billy Donovan could end up still being a Chicago Bulls head coach for a long time or move into the front office or something. But I do think that the clock has started ticking on when that is going to run out for Billy Donovan. So we'll end up seeing what happens here. The Bulls, we've in our history, we've seen the times where we've chosen a coach over a player, and I don't think has ever really gone our way. And not to say that that is going to necessarily be the outcome yet again here, but I do think the Bulls, whether they intended to or not, have started the clock on Billy Donovan. We just got to see how much time's left on that clock. But let me know what you guys think on everything down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod at gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.